It is Friday. We're going to wrap up the week. I got Jeremy Taggart, a rockstar agent in Pittsburgh. I got to catch him before he's going to be meeting up with some out-of-state investors in the ORAC community, I believe, later today. Jack has a function. Well, what's up, Jeremy?
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, so this should be a fun one. There was a listing that I saw pop up on the market maybe a couple weeks ago, and it looked decent, but I liked that it was kind of newer properties. It was like a six unit, I believe. I mentioned it to Jeremy because Alex is the listing agent, so I want to get some unbiased feedback. And I showed it to Jeremy. He kind of chuckled at first and just kind of, so maybe you can kind of touch on it. It was listed at what, 695 currently, right? And like 2 years
Yeah.
ago, it was like 1.3 it was purchased for, or 1.2 or something, right? So what do you know about
Yeah.
this listing?
1.16 million is what he bought it for July of 23.
So about 2 years ago, right? That is crazy.
And that was after rates had went up. So this rate that it was purchased at was about what today's rates are. Um, so yeah, the interesting thing about that one, which is why it was funny that when you sent it to me, was I was actually working with this client that bought it. He's an out-of-state investor, and I was looking at properties for him and stuff. And then eventually it got brought up that he didn't want to just work with one agent. He wanted to be able to work with multiple agents in the Pittsburgh market. So, me at this point, if I'm working directly with a client, it's an exclusive relationship. It's just not worth my time to work with the client, give him knowledge and expertise, and just spending time to go view properties if he's not working directly with me. Maybe if you're a newer agent, it might be, but for me, it's just not. So that's where we kind of just parted ways. I said best of luck. And then that's what made it funny was the fact that he eventually ended up buying this property, and we find out he lost a $500,000 at the end of the day on this property. So just goes to show who you work with matters. It's important when you're dealing with $1 million properties such as this. It's not necessarily the upside. It's more so just saving you from the downside, I would say, is the biggest thing with the specifically with out of state investing, because you're relying so much on the people on the ground, the boots on the ground. So yeah, it ended up not working out for him for a multitude of reasons, which I would have told him prior to buying this property. But said agent that he did end up using to represent him in this deal clearly did not tell him these things that would have happened after he purchased it. So ended up going bad. And we could get into that as far as things that were missed, what happened, etc., in the course of that deal.
Yeah, so like I said, so to maybe not have these type of things happen to you, there is Taggart Team PGH's Instagram page. So if you want to connect with Jeremy and his team, go reach out to them so that you don't maybe run into this situation where possibly you could be looking at a $500,000 loss in 2 years, right? Like you said, he hasn't technically lost 500,000 yet, but chances are it looks like he's going to take a big loss on this property he just purchased 2 years ago, right? So do you want to maybe kind of dig into the listing, or how much did you dig into it when he first reached out to you, or when like when he was looking at buying it, I guess, at the time?
This listing in particular was not discussed among me and him. I had seen it when it was listed, just on the MLS or whatever, but I had never discussed it specifically with this client.
Okay, so let's see. Do you wanna let's see, let's try to bring it up. Bear with me, folks. I don't share screens very often, but let's try to see how this goes. All right, there we go. So let's try do, is that the best way to do it? There we go. How about that?
Yeah. So this was when he purchased. And the first thing that catches my eye on this particular listing is the fact that it's in California, PA, which I'll pull this map up. Can you see this map here?
Yep.
So you're quite a ways from Pittsburgh here. So as you can see, Pittsburgh's up here, and this is way down here. And there's no really, see how you have like Interstate 79, Interstate 376. These are the main highways, like these ones that are blue. Anything else isn't necessarily a main highway. So to get from California to Pittsburgh, it's a good like hour. So you're not really getting tenants that work in and around the city. And there's not too much else around this general area down here in the Mon Valley. So the first thing is it's going to be a little tougher to get fully qualified tenants, especially as an out-of-state investor. Like, it's one thing if you're local, boots on the ground, advertising your units by yourself, self-managing. That's a different story than if you're relying on third-party property management to place tenants for you. Generally, you want to be in an area that has pretty decent rental demand to kind of cover your bases there, because third-party property management isn't going to be the same as if you're self-managing. So that would be the first thing, is it's farther from the major job centers, and there is a university there, but knowing the area, that university, the enrollment's kind of really been dwindling. They actually consolidated that university, because it's a state university, in with other state universities because the enrollment's been going down so much. So you're relying a lot on college kids in that particular town, and that's really all that's there. So high risk from a long-term buy and hold investment standpoint whenever you're relying on a college. And if that college goes away, which the rate colleges are going at this point, it very well might at some point in the next decade or so, that could completely blow the rental market there. So that's something I would have told an out-of-state client if they were looking at that particular investment property. So that's number one. And then we can go back to the other screen. Let's see. I'll pull that back up. So the other thing there, they were advertising this as fully rented at $1,900 per month.
Oh, that does look good.
So yeah, on paper, yeah, you get this building that was built in 2010, side-by-side townhomes, 3 beds, 2.5 baths per unit. That is a trophy property, in terms of strictly just the property itself. Like, that is a very nice building that you would want to own. So as you see this, 1,907 units. What's that gross per month? Let's see.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you didn't, like you said, if you just looked at the listing and the prices and your agents, it's easy to find this as a attractive listing.
Yeah, so you're bringing over 13 grand a month, gross rents. Townhomes are probably paying all utilities. You're hitting the 1% rule right there. So like, that building hitting the 1% rule, that's pretty appealing from an investment point of view. So this was probably brought to the client saying, "Oh, look, you're getting these rents are in place right now. Turnkey building, buy and hold. You won't have a lot of maintenance. It's built in 2010." So not knowing, this client's probably like, "Okay, sounds good to me." But me, when I see this listing, I see 1,900 in California, PA. No chance in hell, basically, that those are the actual rents. So then, if you actually like know the market rents, it's really like $1,000. Like, it's half of what they have listed here is what I would consider market rents in this area, basically. So that's another thing I would have told the client, that, which clearly this was not relayed to them at all. So there, that makes a big difference when you're taking $7,000 a month versus almost $14,000 a month. So that's the second thing, as far as warning to any potential client looking at this property, that I would have said. And then the other one is the property taxes. So let me bring that up. When this was listed, they had them at 8,700 right here, the property taxes per year. And that was at an assessed value of 422,000. And knowing Washington County, they just recently did a full on reassessment of their property taxes a few years ago. So that 422 number here as the assessed value is basically market value. So that's what they're using. There's no like adjustment like there is in Allegheny County to adjust the taxes. So that 422,000 is about what it's assessed at. So knowing that you're paying, he bought it for 1.16 million and the assessed value is 422,000. I would tell the client, look, these taxes could double once you buy this property. So same thing there. You're paying 8,700 divided by 12, 725 a month. If these things double, you could be paying over 1,400 a month for property taxes. So there also cuts into your cash flow. The expenses go up and the rents go down. So looking at that, whenever you sent that to me and I saw this new listing, I checked the taxes. Because I have on the MLS, I can just pull it up right away, basically. Let me see, it's probably under.
So that, yeah, so taxes is the one thing, especially in Pittsburgh. I would, that's why you want your agent to be very familiar with that market or those areas, because that's the tricky part that kind of catches a lot of people off guard.
Yeah, if you don't know how it works, that's just experience-based knowledge that me and the guys have learned just seeing these things over the years. And you would have no idea if you weren't here doing it in the market unless somebody told you, which is, I see it over and over with these properties that sell. They sell for way higher than they should or way higher than the assessed value. And then I see them relisted in a couple years with double the taxes because these people were buying them as break even, probably actually negative cash flow when they bought. Taxes double. Now they're even more negative cash flow and they're relisting it because the property's bleeding, basically. So I see it time and time again. But yeah, California, PA, it's a higher tax area as well. So lo and behold, I went and looked at this tax snapshot and you can see here the tax history. This is the total tax, this line. So it was 8,600 when he bought it. It got reassessed a little higher. This was just natural prime millage rate going up, 89.55. But then in 2025, the assessed value went up to 819,000. So there you go, it doubled. And the property taxes are now 19,000 a year on this property. So they went from 8,600 to 19,000. They over doubled. They went up by 117% from the time that he bought this property. So needless to say, this property is no longer cash flowing unless he bought it for cash, essentially. And let's look at the listing now. I think it has the current rents.
Man, I think, like maybe when he bought it the first year, maybe the rents kind of caught him a little bit off guard. And then now, like 2025, the property tax assessment, now he's just like, I'm out. He's done. It seems like. So he, like you said, let's check out the new listing, right?
Yeah, he doesn't have the actual rents listed, but based on this gross number, 75,600 divided by 12, it's 6,300 per month. I don't know if one of them's vacant, but like I said, market rents realistically 1,000 a month. So I think actually Alex might have sent the rents.
That's wild, man.
See.
I mean, yeah.
And now there's also a lawsuit because, let me see, I got the rents.
Yeah, we won't get into who the listing agent. Oh, Chris, yeah, don't get us in trouble. But
all the units now are rented at 1,000 or 900. Sorry, so 900 times 7 is the 6,300. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought it was interesting to kind of do this. I know you were talking about already kind of doing a case study on this. I said, oh, let's do this live. But I was looking at this, right? It popped up and I was like, oh, this looks kind of interesting. So I dug into it deeper and like I said, yeah. So Alex is the listing agent, and then I also sent it to you. Say, hey, what do you think of this? And like you said, right? It's the property itself is nice. It's a nicer building. It's on the newer side, right? But just there's a lot of maybe negative factors, and at that even at this price point, I would say it's it's a marginal at best, so decent, right? But at 1.1 or whatever the individual purchased it for, I mean, yeah, I can see why he's maybe just wants to be done with the property, right?
Yeah, and the other thing too you'll notice is the insurance. So right now they have it listed as 8,500 per year, which is fair. The insurance when he bought, they were paying 4,600 per year. So that almost doubled too. So all the expenses are doubling, all the rents are half. So needless to say, there goes all of your profit and value because this is a 5+ unit building. It's valued based off the income that you're generating. And not only that, but cap rates have went up since then too, at least probably by a point, I would say. So that decreases the value as well. So yeah, now I mean, they're listed now at half of what he paid for it, and they're not going to get that either, probably. So that's he lost half the value because
Yeah,
of that.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
that these are what things that can happen if you aren't told all of these potential what ifs when buying something and just kind of taking things at face value. So now I think there's trying to sue the owner, I guess, for mis lying about the rents, so to speak. So yeah, now it could be a lawsuit too.
Yeah, so that's why I want to go back to the point of that's why you want to work with people that are kind of on top of their game, trustworthy. You have some boots on the ground, especially if you're out of state. So that's why, like I said, Deacon Hoover, Alex Deacon, and Jeremy's team, Taggart Team PGH. So there's his Instagram page also in the chat. So if you want to connect with them, go reach out to them. And some of you may not know, but they're actually having a meetup in Pittsburgh this weekend. So Jeremy's going to run after this and meet up with Jack Folks. And I think Liam is going. I think Alex is actually going to meet up with you guys today too, he said.
This
But
evening?
yeah, yeah. Well, I think he's heading out or somewhere this or on a trip or something. That guy's always traveling, man. He's always like messaging me. I'm gonna be out of town this weekend or something, but must be nice. But what do you guys got planned for the? Are you guys gonna be looking at properties, or what are you guys gonna do?
I think Jack's taking him on the Gateway Clipper tonight, or today, and then tonight he was gonna have speakers like contractors and stuff go over just specifics like any electrician, HVAC guy, etc. So that should be helpful information. And then I think meeting that's going to be at a restaurant later. So just kind of networking and stuff after that, eat dinner. And then tomorrow he got a bus that we're going to take around to a bunch of different areas in Pittsburgh and then go over like get rundowns on the neighborhoods as we drive through them. So that'll be helpful for a lot of people to just kind of get a feel for the city, different types of areas, whatnot. And then I think he also had some more like touristy things planned, like they're going on a Mexican War Streets house tour, going to a couple of the museums, a couple of the parks here. So kind of just giving people coming into town good idea of Pittsburgh as a whole, and then diving down into some real estate stuff as well.
Hey, we got Nick tuning in. That's my Bitcoin guy. I was gonna say crypto, but then he might have got upset at me. But that's my Bitcoin specialist. So he'll be on. I'll be live with him tomorrow. So I'll be at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll be going over some a lot of the jobs data came out this week, and we'll see how that's going to impact the market and see what he thinks Bitcoin is going to be doing in the near future. But Chris Webb says, is this a 7 unit? Is the financing based on the rents?
Yeah, the loan amount or loan to value the bank will give you if you're using a standard commercial loan will be based on the rents. So if they were using the rents when he bought, he would have got a lot higher loan amount, which he probably did based on that purchase price. But now at the lower rents, it'd be a lot lower loan amount that you'd be able to get because the rents have to support the debt service coverage ratio that the lender would require when giving the loan out. So also hurts you there because you can't get as much money for it on financing. So any buyer now, that's going to affect them from that standpoint.
Cool. And then, hey, all nighter hiders tuning in. I believe he is busy working in Gary, Indiana right now, helping out Millennial Mike on one of his projects. And if for those of you who are in the real estate game and sometimes are maybe questioning why you're doing it, I would go check out Millennial Mike's most recent video with Dion. And as you can see, even people that's been doing this for a decent amount of years, and even they've had some struggles in the past few years. So Millennial Mike's definitely dealing with a property that is not performing the way he hoped, and that's why Hyder's there to help him do some work on it and get it up to speed. But definitely go check out that video. It'll make you realize that you got to have a long game in this, right? The mindset of you're in it and for the long game, and you're going to take some lumps. But it was a great video, great reminder that even the experienced people have made some mistakes or had some struggles and whatnot. Let's see. Chris Webb says, "Can I ask what you would do to make this deal workable? Would it be lower the price, get a owner load at 1% or percentage?" Any thoughts on this, Jeremy? If you had a client maybe interested in it, how would you try to structure it?
Yeah, I think price really is the main thing here because you have to account for, like I said, the neighborhood. I would want a higher cap rate in that neighborhood because it's farther from the city and you have that risk with the college shutting down. So, as long as I accounted for and was okay for the maybe take a little longer to find qualified tenants, rent growth might be as high. Factoring all that in the specific neighborhood, I think the building itself should kind of, I would maybe be willing to accept a little lower cap rate for something like this compared to like an early 1900s converted mansion into apartments or something like that. But factoring everything that in and make sure you're okay with that, and then making an offer based on those factors rather than just kind of initially, like when this was purchased, it was just based on solely the numbers in the building. Didn't seem like anything else was really accounted for from that standpoint. But from the insurance or the taxes and insurance standpoint, that damage was kind of already done. So I think the insurance still has to, or the taxes still have to be factored into the asking price because 19,000 is a lot of money for taxes on a 7 unit building. So that really will hurt the price that it would probably make sense at for sure with that high number at this
And
point.
I'm not sure what your take is on it, if you have any experience with it. But so, like you said, there's looks like there might be a lawsuit going on or whatnot, right? Is that something like would affect the sale of this one? Like, would you try to stay away from it until that's resolved, or?
I don't think that would be attached to the building itself. It would more so just be a case between past owner and current, I'd
So I
say.
think people that are tuning in now possibly may not have heard. So this individual that did purchase the property reached out to you initially, right? When they kind of were looking in the Pittsburgh market, and they want to work with a whole bunch of agents, or that was right where you're saying like they want to just have like an open list of agents to be working with. Was that how it was?
Yeah, it's kind of a, I guess, from their point of view, have your cake and eat it too type of thing. If I have a bunch of agents bring me deals, then I'll probably get a higher chance of getting a good deal in this market. So I guess, unfortunately, a lot of people have that viewpoint. But when you know your time is valuable and you have a vast knowledge on the market and the asset class, it makes no sense for you to work with somebody that is trying to do that. So you are eliminating the top tier agents that are going to give you the most value. So you're kind of getting the leftovers, so to speak, if you want to take that approach in most cases, because other agents that have been doing this a while and know the space, they can only work with so many clients at a time. It would make no sense for them to give their time and knowledge to a client that doesn't feel the same way, isn't reciprocated, basically. And that's my opinion on it. I mean, some other people might have a differing opinion, but I would have to think that other agents in that same boat kind of have the same viewpoint. So that's what you're risking when you take that approach, which a lot of people don't think about until you see instances like this where it
Yeah,
backfires.
absolutely. I think that's also important for people that are, considering Pittsburgh and maybe what we're building there is, like you're saying, you, Liam, Alex, you guys aren't getting paid to take time out of your day today to go hang out with Jack folks, and even tomorrow, right, to go show them around neighborhoods and whatnot. So it's that type of kind of relationship and stuff that we're building, that trust there. And they said, there's a good chance, I believe, that all three of you will be out in Vegas for the ORAD event in February. So as of now, I think you, Liam, Alex will be attending the event. Hopefully, meet a lot of the people that's been working with you that they didn't have a chance to go to Jack's event this weekend. But what are you seeing right now currently? That what do you sounds like rates looks like it might be coming down slightly. I mean, what do you is there a lot of listings you think that are out there that can make sense right now? What are you seeing in the market for Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think rates have came down like a half a point in the last couple of weeks, so that helps a lot on the buy side for sure. And then supply has went up on the multifamily in particular, to the point where a lot of listings are sitting if they're overpriced. And I think now, combined with the rates coming down a bit, there is some opportunity to come in and get some good deals on properties. Not only that, but the new listings that are priced properly, you get better pricing because of the lower interest rate. So it's gotten slowly better and better, I would say, from the buyer point of view, as once rates went up initially a few years ago, and since then as supply has kind of went up. So it's nice from that standpoint for buying properties. And the values have kind of just stayed flat, I would say, for the most part. Here they haven't really went down, except for maybe like the 5+ unit space, like the property that we just went over. Those I've noticed are getting hit a little harder because banks are tightening up their lending standards on those. If it's not, like, we've had a few instances recently, if a building isn't fully occupied or the occupancy rate's low, they don't want to lend on it. If the rents are below market, they're less willing to lend at a good loan to value on that now compared to what they would have previously. So it's trickier to get financing for the 5+ units. But if you are well capitalized, and or maybe you're willing to do like a bridge loan or hard money, there can be some good opportunities on those to buy a value add deal, get it stabilized and refinance when it's more favorable from the commercial loan point of view from the lenders. So yeah, some good opportunities in the 5+ unit if that's a space that people are interested in
I
for
know you
sure.
guys just well, you haven't. I don't know if it went under contract, but I know you guys just had a flip done with Omar, right? Is that one of your guys' properties itself, or a client's one? Client. Oh, okay. I was gonna say we should run
Clients,
through the
yeah.
numbers, but I think Omar did the work on that flip, and it came out looking great. So maybe once it gets sold or whatnot, we can go through the numbers on what that client was. That an out of state investor also, or okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before, I'll say what Mikey's told me so far, but what is, people that haven't been to Pittsburgh, and they come to Pittsburgh for the first time, like what do you think their expectations are, or misconceptions on Pittsburgh are, or what are they going to take home, you think, after they visit there? What is their change maybe in feeling of Pittsburgh? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Anytime we have a client visit for the first time, they're pleasantly surprised on the just general niceness of the city, you could say. Because I think a lot of people just think it's a rundown steel town type of thing, like just with old houses, rundown houses and whatnot. But in terms of just like general amenities, livability of a city, I think they're pleasantly surprised from that standpoint. And I think also people are surprised with how many hills there are and like the rivers and stuff. So seeing how everything's set up from that standpoint, and then just how crazy like the roads can be in terms of just like steepness, or highways not making any sense because it was built out in like the early 1900s, as far as just like general stuff like that in terms of getting around. So just seeing how everything is set up here, because if you've never been here, you're just looking at it on a map view. it's a lot more eye-opening from that standpoint for people. So I think those are the big things that we've always kind of gotten feedback from clients on for the first time coming here. So it's interesting
Did
to see what
did you
people say
talk to
all the time
Mikey
when they come
yet?
here for the first time. No, he's been
Well,
here for like a week,
everything
I
that
think,
you
right?
just said is basically exactly what he has told me. So, yeah,
Really?
so that's why I was like, "Did you
See?
talk to him already?" But pretty much everything that he said. So I'll make it. Mikey is like considering moving there now. He's like, "Man, I'd be down with living here," like, uh,
That's the thing, and that's why I'm still here because like I've been to a lot of other cities and I've seen how expensive they are in terms of housing stock and what you're getting from a livability standpoint versus here. And I don't think like obviously like you can't like San Diego or Hawaii or something. Yeah, I would rather live there 100%. But when you factor in the home prices, like those two areas are well over a million for the same house you could get here for 500,000. So it's like when you factor that in and just the general cost of living, like gas, groceries, food, entertainment, like that's why I think it's a good value proposition. And I see that living here. And anytime you have other people come in and they see the same thing, I think long term, the more people that come here, that it's going to help from the whole population growth thing because a lot of other people will kind of realize that and companies too because if a company locates here they can pay their employees half of what they would have to pay them in California, so there's that side of it as well in terms of the
yeah,
business
so
side of
Chris Webb,
things.
who's in Virginia currently, says, "I loved my last visit to Pittsburgh." Liam, who's tuning in, what's up, Liam? He says, "Totally underrated city." But well, I will put a caveat to what Mike he says. He's not sure about the winners though, so that's going to be the one thing. But so his what? Yeah.
That
So,
is the
but his
hard part.
wife, who he would, I mean, if he did, he'd have to get her on board, right? But I guess she was like doing research on Pittsburgh, and then I guess she was saying, so she's in Japan. She lives in Japan, and she's like, sounds like the Japan winters are actually worse than Pittsburgh. So she was like, oh, maybe she'd be willing to, if Mikey was really serious about it, and like you're talking about the cost of living and whatnot. So I think it's really something on Mikey's radar as far as possibly figuring out some way to um, retire. He's move there and maybe speed up the timeline for his retirement or financial freedom number. I guess like you're saying, cost of living wise, right? But I'll
Yeah, and like even from my point of view, like building getting to financial independence, it can happen a lot quicker living in a city like Pittsburgh compared to more expensive area for sure, if that's the goal for people.
Chris Webb says, yes, people forget the parts of the country inside the country. There are several cities that are quite interesting and livable, except for anywhere outside Chicago to many. Uh, yeah.
Too
Yeah.
many Bears
Chris
fans.
he's a Patriots fan, so he can't say much. But we'll see. We'll see what happens this year, Chris. That is
Monday
right.
Night Football
And
to
then
start the season.
if anyone, I don't know if I brought it up before, but I beat Jeremy in the playoffs the other year in our fantasy football. So this year he locked me out of my team, so I couldn't draft for like the first 3 rounds. I couldn't figure out how to get.
I saved you from drafting Caleb Williams in the first round, so you should be
Let's see.
thankful.
Liam does say winters are mild coming from Buffalo. Okay. Um, but to your point, you mentioned San Diego, Hawaii. You'd rather live there, and I'm kind of like the opposite. Like I feel like, I mean, I can't speak for San Diego, but like Hawaii, it's a great place to visit or spend. Not necessarily have to live here. Like you actually. Like you're saying, if you live in Pittsburgh or somewhere where you can reach your financial independence number a lot quicker, and then you come and spend time in Hawaii and vacation often or spend you actually enjoy it a lot more, I think. And that's what even a lot of my friends who've relocated to other places, a lot of them moved to Vegas and whatnot, and Vegas is still expensive but it's still a lot cheaper than Hawaii. But now when they actually come back to Hawaii, they love it even more because they're just here and just soaking in all the beauty, right? They're not here trying to get to a job or sit in traffic, and they're just here and then they're going to enjoy all the beauty that it has to offer. Uh, Chris says his coworkers are laughing. Oh boy. Yeah. Chris is on a few weeks ago, so Chris is a good guy too. So he's in Virginia. He's going to be at the ORAD event also in February. But what do you guys, what do you, Liam, what do you guys maybe thinking of getting away of coming to the event? Do you guys have any expectations, or what's your guys maybe thoughts on the community so far?
The
Yeah,
ORET event.
yeah,
Yeah, I like what he's got going there for sure. I like the community aspect in general, which I think is it's helpful with anything when you're kind of buying properties, working towards financial independence to have people that are kind of on the same track as you. So I definitely like that standpoint for sure. I think it's huge to be able to have a community like that. And the fact that I think it's just like getting everybody together and like bring speakers in. I think I like that concept. Just providing value and knowledge too at the same time as combining it with the community aspect
and
is
then
cool.
just to let you know, you would not be the number one house hacker in Vegas. There's I believe, like I said, there's the PTO couple that are on their 10th, I believe. So yeah, yeah, they're on their 10th.
10.
But they also now they're in Colorado or in Denver. I'm not sure if it could be specifically in Colorado, but they're still house hacking, but now they're even getting it into the house hacking like co-living. So they're house hacking, but they're like renting out rooms now, not just like duplex and then renting one side. It's like house hacking now rooms they're renting out in the other. So to increase the cash flow even more. Yep, Liam.
We could house hack the primary we're buying though. It has a separate
You
in-law
could,
suite.
but I bet you're not. Yeah. You have
We're
no
not.
say in it anymore, I think.
just just family down there at
Yeah,
this
Liam, yep,
point.
Liam's excited to meet. I think everyone is, yeah, they're definitely excited to meet you folks. I mean, I think a lot of them are gonna, like we mentioned, they're gonna get to meet you guys this weekend in Jack's event that he put together, and I'm pretty impressed at what Jack got done. I think it's gonna be a great event, especially for the first one. So I think he has plans of doing, a yearly thing possibly. So hopefully we can get more people out there. Yeah, I was about 70% coming at one point, and just too much things got on my plate at the end. So but I'll probably be there next year, hopefully. But definitely, like I said, Mikey, exactly what you said, like the road, some of the roads, you're just like all of a sudden, oh, gotta go left. Like it just doesn't make sense certain points. Like he said, the people there have just been amazing, like super, super friendly, super nice. And to Chris's point, I know Chris was making the Bears joke earlier, but I think that's the one thing people sometimes forget, that there is so many amazing places in the country, and it's just and maybe 20 years ago people weren't as mobile. The cell phones, yeah, you had cell phones, but it wasn't as much of your day to day, so you weren't really familiar with what else was out there, right? But now, it's like I said, like Hawaii's beautiful. Like I tell you, it's amazing, but like you go to other places and you realize there's so much other beautiful places out there too. And like you, right? I believe you're doing this whole national park, like when you travel, right? So you're seeing all these national parks out there too, right? Was that always a goal of yours, or is this something you've kind of picked up?
Um, we kind of picked it up once we decided we were going to start traveling more, and we like being outdoors. We're still younger, so we can do hikes and stuff. So that was something we picked to do at this point in time, like I said, while we're younger. So we can hit, like, we want to do all the baseball stadiums at some point too, but I want to prioritize the more physically demanding things now, pre children, when we're in our 20s and 30s. So that's why the national parks was kind of during this phase of our life to be able to see everything. And yeah, a lot of them are so cool to be able to see everything
Um,
in other
yeah, I
parts of
gotta
the
say good
country.
morning to some people. I see them tuning in from Instagram. We got like Ryan Ruff. He's gonna actually be one of the speakers. Him and his wife are gonna be, I think, day two speakers at the ORAD event in Vegas. Cam is also there from Instagram. I know Cam is working on a transaction with you currently. Chris, yeah, Chris is gonna hotel room and house hack it to me, and I am not staying with you and Flavio, Chris. That's guarantee. I'm not staying with you guys. But yeah, I don't know. Anything else you want to talk about the Pittsburgh market right now? I mean, any interesting listings you want to show, or I don't know what else we can talk about today. Like I said, I just want to go over that one interesting listing where someone maybe taken a loss of $500,000 in 2 years, basically, right? Do you think it's going to sell it? I mean, just your guess at six at that at the
I think those taxes are going to be the hard part there.
yeah.
It'll sell. It's just a matter of what price. I don't know. It might be a
Mm.
foreclosure situation. I would have to think, unless the seller is able to bring the money for the difference.
Yeah, I mean, that's to
But
swallow that in 2 years, man. I mean, that's a yeah. But at some point, you got to just make that decision, right? If you're bleeding money every month, it's just you got to cut your losses, right? Uh,
yeah, but that's a perfect example of all the things that all the buyer beware things that you should be aware of. And if you aren't, the consequences of it, especially in a market that goes from 3% rates to 7, 8% rates, that's kind of when the market's cleansing, so to speak, is when you see instances like that, because it's not the only instance of that
I
happening.
mean, I know it happens to probably all of us at some point, overpaying. Especially in the beginning, you may have overpaid slightly for a property, but this just seems and maybe there is justified reason for this individual trying to sue, seems like, right? But it just seems like this was above and beyond overpaying, right? There is something definitely that I don't know if information or whatnot, but yeah, it's a tough one. Hey, Curtis is here. Y'all buy 5+ units? Okay. Do you, Jeremy, do you or Liam, or do you guys, to your clients, do you guys maybe sell more 5+ units, you think, or 2 to 4 small multis?
It's mostly 2 to 4, just because that's what we have most of in the housing stock here, and that's what most newer ish investors are interested in right off the bat, and obviously house hackers. The 5+, we do a decent amount of those. They're usually either people that are well funded, coming from, say, stocks or equities, and want to get a little exposure to real estate, so they want just one or two bigger buildings. That's what we see a lot of. Or people that started out with the 2 to 4 units and now they're graduating to 5+ units. So those are the two that we see the most in terms of buying the 5+ unit buildings, which I really like. The 5 to 20 unit space, particularly here, because you're kind of, that's the space that isn't as saturated. The 2 to 4s are more saturated than the 5+. So I think you can get better rent to price ratios on the 5+ units if you have the money for it. So it's a good space to be in for sure.
Yes. So for those of you that maybe tuning in a little bit late, me and Jeremy went over a listing that the individual is possibly looking at losing $500,000 in 2 years. Maybe on some bad advice from their previous agent and whatnot. But they bought something 2 years ago, 1.1, I believe, on the market for about 600,000 right now, or high 600,000, I believe. But yeah, looking at a big loss for a lot of different reasons. Maybe misrepresented rent amounts, property taxes basically doubling, things like that, right? But Jeremy, maybe from the agent side. So Curtis is a new agent in Washington area, and he's been killing. He's been doing open houses, putting out a lot of content out there. But you being a successful agent in your market, how would you, or what advice could you give a newer agent? I know it's different markets, but what would you advise to a newer agent out there?
I've always just led with providing value in any way, shape, or form. I think that when you focus on that, naturally you are just going to attract people that want to work with you and value your opinion. So just working hard, providing value, really that goes for anything, but I think it's just being authentic. I've never tried to be salesy with people, even at the beginning. So I think that a lot of people kind of appreciate that from the client agent relationship whenever they aren't feeling as if they're just being sold. Like if you go to a car lot and you're buying a car, a lot of times they're just trying to sell you. So trying to prevent that sort of interaction or feeling with the clients, I think those are the big things that I've always kind of focused on. And then naturally you'll just build clientele and long-term relationships when you kind of operate like that, rather than focusing on the here and now, trying to make a sale right away type of thing, always thinking in decades rather than days or weeks. Kind of what are my actions today going to benefit a decade from now, not just right now. So kind of thinking the long term is how I've always approached the agent side of things. And for me in particular, focusing on a niche really helped. So I could have at the beginning went into, say, the residential luxury space or something, like made tried to focus on that. But I know that my superpower and knowledge and expertise, and just there's a need in the market for investor agents. So I kind of assessed the market and what the supply and demand standpoint, and I settled in the niche of what we ended up in, which is working with investor clients. So I think with any newer agent is trying to, you kind of got to take what you can get at the beginning, but long term, maybe niching down on something that you really focus on, and there might be an opportunity for it in whatever market you might be in. So that would be kind of what I would recommend to any new agent starting out trying to make money on sales and commissions, like it's structured. And I like the team model too. Like when I first started, I was kind of on Alex and Ian's team. They provided some mentorship, but I was also able to help them because they were super busy. They couldn't work with all the clients at any given time, especially when they started the brokerage. So it can be a win-win relationship to be on a team with somebody. They're providing leads, knowledge, experience based feedback and mentorship while you're helping them help service clients and everything too. So I think that finding a team of some sort rather than just trying to start brand new scratch on your own from scratch is beneficial too on the
Yeah,
agent
great
side.
advice. And, to your point too, like thinking long term, right? So, like, this listing that we did kind of go over today, right? The agent, I'm not sure if they were a new agent that sold this, 2 years ago, right? Yeah,
He was thinking short term. I want to, what am I going to get
yeah.
paid
And
on
then
this?
now, like I said, we're not going to put anyone's name out there, but, this agent, I don't know, it could be, this could have been their last transaction, possibly, right? Like maybe, if this
It's not
yeah,
working
right.
with that
So,
that client again.
definitely, that's why you, like you said, you want to think long term, down the road. Give your, always have your clients' best interests in mind. And this listing or this property definitely, shows that from all different angles, right? Somebody definitely got paid up front, right? But it could definitely hurt their career in the long run. And for the person that did buy it and is now trying to sell it, hopefully, um, they can cut their losses. But definitely, like we're talking about, right? You want to find these agents and teams and boots on the ground that you can trust and work with. It's going to give you great advice. Hey, Charles McCune's here. He's asking how to find a team to start with. Maybe Jeremy.
So I found Alex and Ian online, Bigger Pockets actually, because that's what I wanted to focus on was investing. And it kind of started with me. I was talking to Ian, my broker. This was before they started the brokerage, just to get his advice on how to approach the selecting a brokerage as a new agent. So that was the kind of the advice I got. And I think really just like if you do enough research online, ask around different brokerages and whatnot, you're going to see kind of different teams. And then I think talking to the team leader on what they focus on, how they approach the team standpoint, because some of them do it different than others. So figuring out what the best fit would be for you as a new agent, and same thing there, looking long term, like it might be a good short term thing. Like I know a lot of teams, they the team leaders kind of, there's a lot of turnover for the team members just because they're thinking short term as well, not long term. Where like, say the team member, they'll give the team leader will give the team member leads, but they still put the sales under their name. So it's hard for they're not really giving the team members kind of credit for doing the sales. They're kind of just keeping them under their umbrella. So it kind of limits their growth long term. So I think same thing there, just long term thinking. What puts me in the best position a decade from now, the team I would join right off the bat. So thinking of it that way as well, because just like anything else, it compounds over time. So each thing that happens, each sale compounds over a long enough period of time. You want to kind of focus on that rather than the just day one here and now.
Yeah, great advice. Chris Webb says for a new agent who is not an investor and is new to the industry, how would you explain the value you provide to an investor? I know some new agents here are willing to write up lowball offers.
Yeah, that could be a niche is if you don't have knowledge yet, you have time. So just focusing on what you do have available to you at that given point in time. And even if you're writing up lowball offers, you're going to get experience, which I think getting the experience working with investor clients over time, you're going to get the knowledge. So then your superpower can be the knowledge at a certain point in time. But at the beginning, until you get that experience and knowledge, focusing on things like just working with clients, writing offers up, just doing really anything you can at the beginning. Like I said, you kind of got to be a little more broad at the start until you can narrow down once you have more clients than time, basically. But focusing on that at the beginning can be good.
So, like I said, there is Jeremy's Instagram page, the Team Taggart Team PGH. So, if you want to connect with them, go reach out to them. If you are in the area, just reminder Jack has put together a Pittsburgh event this weekend. So, there is a lot of people in the ORAC community that are in the area already. And Jeremy's going to meet up with them later today. And sometimes this weekend, they're going to drive around some areas. But is this listing that we talked about today, is this going to be kind of, you think, a case study that you would probably maybe go over with new investors that reach out to you that are looking to maybe use your services, and this is going to be a perfect one for you to kind of show what could happen if you work with the wrong individuals?
I think it should be because, like I said, it literally checks all the
Yeah, and
boxes.
like we said, that people, like I said, people that may be tuning in late, this client or this individual did reach out to you, right, for possibly your services, and for whatever reasons it didn't work out, or their expectations were different. And we covered how maybe the person wanted to be using uh multiple agents at one time, right? And you said, that's not really worth your time, right? So, just some advice on that standpoint. But yeah, like I said, thanks for doing this. I definitely want to dig into this listing and kind of show my audience too, like why we enjoy working with you folks, working with Alex, Ian, and whatnot, and kind of what we're building there. And like we said, you folks will be with Jack this weekend, showing the community around to some areas and talking about it. But anything else you want to wrap it up? Anything about I don't know, we can finish up with your fantasy football team or whatnot. We just had our draft. Yeah, like I said, you locked me out of the draft, so I couldn't draft for the first 3 rounds. Um, just because I beat you the other year. But
Yeah, my
but
whole team
but
got
I
hurt
don't know if you
right when the
remember, the
playoffs
funny part
started.
was is then I was talking shit to everyone because I thought I won, but the playoffs was whatever was set up for 2 weeks. I didn't realize that. I ended up
2 weeks.
freaking
Yeah, two
losing.
weeks.
It just Hyder says just got to Home Defecto in Hammond, Indiana, outside Gary while traveling to Gary. We're noticing substantial sidewalk repair for 88 and new business coming in. More biz that what? Than last time that he saw last time. Yeah, go. Yeah, like I said, if anyone hasn't seen the video with Dion and Millennium Mike, definitely go check it out. I think, like I said, even seasoned investors take their lumps every once in a while. And it's I love the transparency from Millennial Mike all the time. So go check out that video. It definitely make you realize that yeah, you're gonna make some mistakes or mistakes will happen, and you just got to figure out ways to get over it, and you got to think the long run, right? Just like how Jeremy's talking about as an agent, you got to think long term, right? The long term vision of all of this. Oh,
And you got to look at the downside as well rather than just the upside.
absolutely. But yeah, hope you guys have a fun weekend. Hopefully, a good turnout. And like I said, you guys will be in Vegas. But like I said, we'll get Liam's on. Liam will be on Tuesday, I believe. I'll be live tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. with Nick, my Bitcoin specialist. So that should be a fun one. We'll see how Bitcoin is going to react to all this job information and job data that came out this week. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's been interesting. All
yeah,
the
it's
revisions and stuff.
and like a lot of people tuning in right now, they followed Michael Zuber also, and he's pretty much nailed it again. He's been pretty spot on. He's been talking about a 50 basis point cut for a while, and it looks like it's a little bit more of a possibility now. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they're already. It seems like they're already starting to price it in because the actual rates kind of get ahead of it before they actually do it. So they've been going down. I think the 10
Yep.
year went down even
It's almost, I don't know if I
like
haven't looked at it recently, but I think late last night, early, it was just about almost under below 4. So yeah, it's coming down quick. Yeah.
yeah, it's
So,
almost back there. Yeah, 4.06 right now.
man, somebody's
So
looking for a raise. Liam says Jeremy is the best boss I've ever had.
oh my gosh. Not your boss.
But yeah, like before we wrap things up, I guess, like I said, Liam is another great resource, and he's also on the channel. He'll be here. He's with you folks this weekend, but Liam's going to probably have a lot more on his plate, coming end of this year. You've been grooming him, so it seems like he's going to be doing a lot more with your guys' team, right? So yeah, cool. Thanks, man. Yeah, we'll do this again, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll go have a great weekend, and take some pictures and let us know. Make sure Mikey behaves now. Make sure he comes back to Hawaii. I know, like I said, Mikey's actually considered. I know, so
He
that's what I'm
might
saying. Make
not.
sure he comes back.
We might be helping him buy a
Yeah.
primary while he's
All
here.
right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great weekend.